You are listening to an encore episode that was part of my Psychedelic, Sacred Medicines, Purpose, and Business free online summit. This was one of my favorite interviews, so I wanted to share it with you here on my podcast. I hope you love it as much as I do. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Psychedelic, Sacred Medicines, Purpose, and Business. I'm Beth Weinstein. I'm a spiritual business coach helping you align with your purpose and grow your business so that you can help more people share your unique medicine and create freedom and abundance doing work that you love. And today, I'm really honored to have David Bronner with us. Hi, David. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So David Bronner is the Cosmic Engagement Officer, the CEO of Dr. Bronner's, the top-selling brand of natural soaps in North America, and producer of a range of organic body care and food products. He is a grandson of the company founder, Emmanuel Bronner, and a fifth-generation soap maker. Under David and his brother Michael's leadership, the brand has grown to $4 million in 1998 to $129 million in annual revenue in 2019. David and Michael established Dr. Bronner's as a sustainable leader in the natural products industry by becoming one of the first body care brands to formulate with hemp seed oil in 1999 and to certify its soaps, lotions, balms, and other personal care products under the USDA National Organic Program in 2003. Today, David is helping to lead the effort to establish the Regenerative Organic Certified Standard, dedicating time and resources to creating an integrated, comprehensive program that addresses soil health, animal welfare, and fair labor practices to advance sustainable and ecological alternatives in industrial agriculture. In addition to his support of advocacy for regenerative organic agriculture, David directs Dr. Bronner's resources to support animal advocacy, wage equality, and drug policy reform. David was born in LA in California in 1973 and earned his undergraduate degree in biology from Harvard University. He is a dedicated vegan and enjoys surfing and dancing in the late night and lives in Southern California. And I know you also enjoy Burning Man back when we were allowed to go there.
Yeah.
But David, it's interesting. So I actually crowdsourced some questions for you. And actually, a few of the top questions that came through were about your soap camp at Burning Man, the foam camp.
Okay.
I know this has nothing to do with psychedelics and business, but let's get this out of the way as an icebreaker. What were you, first of all, were you the one involved in this? And like, was this your idea? And how involved are you in things like recreational Burning Man?
Yeah, and well, actually, it's very much about psychedelics. So we're the host camp for Zendo project on Playa. So Zendo is MAPS psychedelic harm reduction. So if you're having an overwhelming experience and you took LSD to have fun, but you have some really deep traumatic material coming up, or just otherwise you just need to exit the kind of crazy party environment and do some deep work. Zendo creates these safe spaces on Playa where it's like they have sitters and you come in, you can lay down, it's relaxing. It's, it's not the super hyperactive environment. It's the opposite. We really make these like really nice chill spaces for people to come ground out and do work. And people navigating a really challenging or difficult experience will often be able to resolve that and have a really positive outcome. So we're the host camp, and but then in parallel to that, and just to be clear, I'm not there as Dr. Bronner's or as CEO of Dr. Bronner's. I'm there as a board member of MAPS and with a lot of comrades that like to burn and show up but on top of Zendo, our other main gift to the Playa is our foam. So my dad developed firefighting foam for structure and forest fires. So it's a long story, but my dad had his own company. He oversaw the soap manufacture for my granddad, for Dr. Bronner, but had his own company and primarily developed firefighting foam, and then a version for Hollywood that was a fake snow. So me and my brother would blast foam on like Alka-Seltzer movie sets and stuff to make it look like it snowed. And but it was like really ecstatic. It was just an ecstatic experience when you blast snow. It's like a snow day, and we would go to inner city daycare camps and just just stoke people out of all walks of life, retirement homes, just go and like make it look like it snowed or just blast snow right on them. And me and my brother would blast foam at high velocity at 1.5 inch, fire hoses at each other and our friends. And my granddad died in 97. And then my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer and died a year later. It was a very intense time. And I had to step up pretty young. And it was, unfortunately, I had gone through my own big experiences with psychedelics to really understand and appreciate my granddad and his vision of all one and united human race across religious and ethnic divides. And we're all children of the same divine source. And none of that made sense until I had some really huge psychedelic experiences and dived into the love and light at the heart of existence. And somehow in the midst of the absurdity and suffering, that's the truth. And my granddad was on it. And all the faith traditions, when they're not making idols out of their beliefs and demonizing each other, they're pointing at that transcendent source and mystery. And so when my granddad died, my dad died. I basically shut down my dad's business. It was just too much to be doing both the foam and the soap business. And so we just concentrated on the soap business and, did a bunch of activist stuff and, ran it, in my granddad's kind of vision. But, my dad was our central, my brother's company president, Mike Bronner, our central moral inspiration is our dad. And he's an amazing, amazing man. And it was like 10 years later. So it was like 2008 or something. And I was going through a really tough time. And I was talking to my dad, and I was like, Pop, how'd you do it? How'd you raise a family and run a business? It's nuts. I'm just losing my shit, And I just remembered like how much fun and joy we brought the world with the foam, and like just what a magician he was, like making these amazing machines and just blasting foam and just so I built a machine based on one of his late designs and brought it to Burning Man. It was like, like, what do I have to offer to the playa? Just being really inspired and by all the amazing people making amazing things happen out there. And so I was like, oh, I'll bring out a foam machine. And we brought one out, and just, it was ecstatic. I mean, people were just so blown away by it. We're just blasting foam at high velocity. And at the burn, there's a lot of fire, there's a lot of dust, but there's not a lot of water. And in fact, public showering is illegal. So, but we self-interpreted our foam as more of a mist than a shower. So we were under the Nevada mist regulations. It snowballed into being this like huge thing. And so now we bring, double plexi, like trailers out there. We pack like 50 people in at a time and blast foam on them and have DJs stoking people out. And it's a big naked dance party, and it's kind of like bathing culture, bringing like, in America, we're pretty prudish, and we don't have that like comfort of just bathing nude with each other and just having that whole relaxing vibration. And so we're, that's another, it's like there's many levels to what we're doing with the foam. But yeah.
Thanks for answering that. Because I've been there 4 times and I had no idea about any of this. I have been to the Zendo training at your camp back in 2017, I think it was. And it was incredible. I swear there must have been 500 people at that training. It was, 200-300. It was huge, and just incredible work that they were doing on the playa. So David, let's talk a little bit about your own personal work with psychedelics over the years and running what I would call a conscious business. I and I'm sure many people have heard so much about your company and how you pay a fair wage, how it's a really great place to work. Everybody knows about the sustainability and the agriculture, the hemp, and all these initiatives around giving towards psychedelics. I'm curious, how have psychedelics played a part in decisions you've made for your business and the company, or have they at all? I'm curious, like, have you had any epiphanies, or, oh, let's try to do this different, or let's come out with this new product? I'm curious if they've been intertwined.
Yeah, well, before we make any major decision, I take at least 300 mics of LSD to carefully review in detail. No, I'm joking.
No, I was like,
no. Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, my path, my spiritual path has definitely been, fundamentally, let's say, assisted by our sacred allies. They've really helped me connect with my more authentic, deeper self, and with nature and with God and goddess. And I think just kind of getting me into the vibration of service and understanding that we exist here to serve one another and create joy and liberation and collective liberation and harmony with earth. I mean, that's the end game here. And so that, money's just energy to help make that happen. So I think that's, definitely been helpful. And then the way we formalize that is like we cap our executive compensation at 5 times our lowest paid, fully vested position, and all profits we don't need for the company we give to the causes that we believe in. And you listed a bunch of them, but integration of psychedelics in a responsible way as fast as possible, so that the Western culture can over hopefully not that much longer of a time have real relationship in a way that Indigenous cultures hold these plant medicines in such high prayerful reverence and deeply inform their culture and their attitudes and their connection to nature and each other. And so, I think that holds the healing, not just the medicine, but the Indigenous ways of being and relating and knowing and healing really are what's missing in the West, the Western malaise, the colonial mindset, the trying to consume to feed this kind of hollowness, emptiness in the soul, that's just ripping the world apart. We're living through the 6th great extinction event. So, I mean, there's many different things we need to do to get to this promised land. But I feel like psychedelics are like upstream, mindfulness generally are upstream of like every other issue. We need to, all the social and environmental mega challenges we're facing. How do we help people kind of wake up and grapple with them? And so I feel that psychedelics are crucial in my path, and I think crucial for many. And then, so, I think it really helped me again, like resonate to my granddad's vision of, we must unite the human race and sustainable harmony with each other and with nature. That definitely, my psychedelic experience helped me connect to that and his passion. And so I was able to let him know that I understood him and was going to dedicate my life to his passion. The All One God Faith, which is still our corporate name. And I guess that would be the role psychedelics play.
Beautiful. No, it's interesting. You mentioned a few things that I was going to ask about. There's so many people who are looking around, reading the news, hearing, seeing what's going on social media, feeling like the world is crumbling. And there is this feeling for many of us that feels like the time is yesterday, like it's an all hands on deck situation in every realm as well. It's health and wellness, environmental, financial, the whole systems, right? Like you mentioned so many systems with, equality and society and just so much happening at a really heavy level. Like there's a lot to hold right now. I'm curious, because you're kind of on the front lines as a big leader out there in business, do you see a trend towards more businesses starting to question their practices and their policies that they have in place and considering restructuring? I mean, is this really happening, or is this just my optimistic hope that there's more and more companies like the Bronners and the Patagonias of the world? I mean, is there a trend happening that maybe will help things a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I'm a cautious optimist. I think, the problems we're facing are pretty staggering. But I think we have the solutions in hand. And, I think a radical shift to regenerative organic agriculture and moving to a plant-based diet is a big piece of it. Tackling issues of income inequality and, racial inequality and injustice and, yeah, I mean, ending the drug war. I mean, there's some big things ahead of us that we need to get after. But yeah, reforming capitalism is huge, and moving away from this like profit maximizing kind of mindset. I mean, right now, a corporation, your sole and only purpose is to maximize fiduciary return to your shareholders. It's, but there's a new corporate form called a Benefit Corp. It's separate from a B Corp. B Corp is a certification, but Benefit Corp is an actual legal form that a company can take, that you can enshrine social impact as your primary purpose, alongside obviously generating profit, so that shareholders can't sue you for performing, like say, using most of your profit like we do to, make the world better. If you're not a Benefit Corp, and we had minority shareholders that weren't mission aligned, they can sue us and say, you're not maximizing my fiduciary return. So, but the fact that Benefit Corp exists, I mean, that's a sign of the time. It's a new corporate form. We're a Benefit Corp. There's more and more. MAPS has a public Benefit Corp. USONA on the psilocybin side, they're not for profit. And there's some really cool companies. Patagonia, but like Mimosa is one in the psychedelic space that I'm paying attention to, that looks really cool. So I'm cautiously optimistic that, we're seeding. I mean, these are seeds. I mean, still dominant culture is, this whole kind of dominating mindset, and hierarchical and patriarchal and chauvinist and sexist and homophobic and ripping, not connected to nature, and not taking ownership or responsibility for impacts on people and the planet. But, we're seeing the seeds of hopefully the future that will get more and more traction here. And I have a lot of hope that as we integrate the medicines, that, they're not magic bullets, but that they're going to help speed up the process as more and more people get psychedelically opened and healed, and just less judgmental, more compassionate, more empathic, and so yeah, come on, everybody.
Yeah, this is my prayer as well. And I tend to be optimistic, probably just because of this path that I'm on, working with these sacred plants and seeing the potential. But I'm curious, without disclosing, do you find that there's more and more leaders and entrepreneurs and CEOs and business leaders that are interested in this work? Maybe they've heard it through the grapevine. Maybe it's some of the more progressive businesses like Silicon Valley tech. We've all heard about, tech microdosing, but do you feel like this might help the world make the change?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to overstate, it's the medicines, but I mean, I really like the term spiritual bypassing. It's like, just because you have an experience of unity doesn't mean that, somehow like you've solved the world's problems. There's very real structural inequality and mega changes we need to, the collective behavior change and the policies and all that. This is really hard work, and there's no kind of magic shortcut. But yeah, I do think that psychedelic medicine can really help us plug in, can help us, hear from nature about how off balance things are, and and help us, how do you say, kick our butts a little bit to live a life of, just more balance and integrity with respect to the earth and each other. But yeah, I think definitely that's a culture, we destigmatize the culture, that more and more people are availing themselves of these medicines. And there's a danger in that. I mean, especially with the plant medicines, that there's already a lot of demand pressure on the indigenous traditions and their wild sources of medicine, making sure we're being responsible as a psychedelic, renaissance unfolds. That there's a project I'm involved in that's called the Indigenous Conservation Medicine Fund that's going to launch in another month or so, and it's going to fund indigenous-led biocultural projects, around peyote and ayahuasca and iboga and basic medicines that are in kind of bad shape, and in the indigenous traditions that are holding them and are facing a lot of disruptive, let's say, influences. Just how do we do this? How do we honor them and their gifts in a way that helps them preserve their medicine and their way of life for the generations to come.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, will that be a nonprofit? It sounds like it.
Yeah. It'll be a nonprofit, and it'll be a consumer guide. It'll be like a Marine Stewardship Council guide for like fisheries, like red, like green, yellow, red. And so like the medicines like peyote will be red, use San Pedro or some other mescaline containing cacti if you're not, Native American church or, already in the peyote way of life. And Iboga also is in pretty bad shape, and, just kind of really be careful where you're sourcing that from. Ayahuasca, depending, there are sustainable sources of ayahuasca, but it's kind of few and far between. And, just really think about your medicine in the way you think about your food. And, just is it coming from a responsible source, from somebody who's doing it right, harvesting it right, growing it right, or is it, a disaster? And yeah.
Yeah, the source and also the intention, like, do you really need this every weekend, versus are you properly integrating it? Are you, going in with the really good intentions? So maybe you don't need it as much, but that's, to each their own. I know people need their healing in whatever form, but yes, thank you so much for making this nonprofit or being involved in it, because this is a huge conversation. There's a few speakers in this series that have brought it up. We're donating a big percentage of the profits from this series to nonprofits doing this kind of work, because it is
Awesome.
It is important, and it is a problem out there. And it also represents just, another form of colonialism and kind of perpetuating the system that we're all trying to break. Right. So everybody's trying to figure this out and get the balance right, which was actually one of my last questions for you. Is there's so many people who are on this path who've really found life-changing healing experiences through the use of sacred medicines and psychedelics. And then they see what's going on in the world. And, people like me have even felt like this dread of like hopelessness of what can I do? I do my own piece. I do my own inner work. I try to, do my best and remain non-judgmental and compassionate and do my little pieces to contribute. But what would you say to the everyday person that maybe isn't a CEO and doesn't have millions? Like, what would you say to people for how to be the change in the world? Like, what can they do?
Yeah. Well, I think, I think as we activate, as you get a sense like, okay, wait a minute, I need to serve, I need to help make this, world better. Like, I think, first of all, starting with yourself and, and your immediate relationships and being kind and awesome, working and journaling and, doing what you need to do for your self growth. But then your diet, like understanding, and not just diet, but just your general consumption, like how we spend our money is the kind of world we're voting for. So are you like getting, your food from a farmer who's taking care of their land right, their workers right? Or is it like an industrial GMO plantation that's ripping up rainforest and oxidizing huge amounts of carbon in the air and disrupting indigenous smallholder communities? And, just really understanding like, what are the products that we're consuming, what kind of foods and clothes and soaps and whatever, just really understanding it on that level. But then like, I say like, whatever you care most about, what are you most passionate about? If it's like, animal rights and ending factory farming, or is it income inequality? Is it homelessness? Is it integration of psychedelic medicine? And, whatever it might be, figure out who are the organizations in the space that are really engaged on the issues, and maybe, volunteer with them, or, give them money, whatever money is you can. But I think like if everybody's like choosing to activate on whatever they most care about, and if everybody's doing something, then we'll get it all done. And then like be aware of like, and be in solidarity with the other struggles and the other issues. So like when other movements have their moment, that we're all showing up in solidarity, and helping each other out.
Yeah, that's beautiful advice. And it really, to me, it's you mentioned this, like the one step is, okay, how are you acting? Just like start with the very basics. How do you treat your friend, your neighbor, your family, yourself? Right. So these very small steps, one at a time. Thank you so much. So tell us a little bit about what Bronner's or you personally have upcoming, any initiatives besides the one you just mentioned. What's coming up for you as a company or as a person in the future?
Yeah, well, drug policy reform is we're in a huge shift here, and Oregon we broke through, and DC, and different cities that have decriminalized medicines. We're optimistic with SB 519 in California that will be decriminalizing psychedelics hopefully soon next year. Washington, Colorado, looks like there's some serious coalitions forming to do what happened in Oregon in 22. So, we're kind of, supportive of that, and, optimistic that we'll see some huge, some more huge progress. And then the Regenerative Organic Alliance, Regenerative Organic Agriculture, where we're bringing together the best of soil health, animal welfare, and fair labor movements into one standard, one consumer-facing standard. That's really getting traction, and really excited by that and the potential. And that's regenorganic.org to check out. And then we just launched chocolate, which you were referring to. Unfortunately, I ate all the chocolate that was in my house. I can't show you any, but I
want people to know I asked David if these chocolates had future plans for other kinds of chocolate.
Yeah, it's so the story of the chocolate is our farming partners in Ghana that supply our palm oil are for our bar soap are intercropping cocoa, banana, and cassava. And so the palm's tall, and the cocoa, bananas are mid-level trees, and the cassava's on the ground. And when you plant them in the right distance, understanding how the canopies fill in, you actually produce twice as much in that kind of integrated, what's called dynamic ag forestry or multi-strata ag forestry, than if you did monoculture blocks of the same crops in the same area. And you're minimizing weed and pest pressure, you're maximizing biomass and yield, and huge amounts of carbon is going into the soil, and yields are up, incomes are up, rural economies and livelihoods are just way improved. And so there's a lot of benefits, and we're helping our farmers sell to chocolatiers in Europe the cocoa that they were growing. And we're like, actually we can make our own chocolate, and partner with a Swiss manufacturer who's been doing it for 200 years, and really tell the story of dynamic ag forestry as like a and regenerative agriculture generally. And how do we farm in nature's image? There's not a bunch of synthetic inputs into a forest. It's totally self-regenerating. So how do we produce the food, the fiber for our clothes, the materials for our everything in a way that's self-regenerating in our farming ecosystem? So the chocolate is really a way for us to kind of tell that story. And it's magic because of that, as far as like putting cannabis or mushrooms or, whatever in it. My family is like, they're that's a little too spicy for them. So that's not happening, in the foreseeable future. But, we are excited to continue to fuel the psychedelic renaissance with profits from the magic chocolate, along with all our other products. And so recommend checking that one out.
Beautiful. Really, Oh, I'm so glad you told that story of the chocolate, because I had noticed them in my little local co-op just a few months ago, and I was like, oh, great. Yeah. This is exciting. And if you already have most of the ingredients laying around from all your other products, I'm sure. So
well, you know what, and you can melt the chocolate and put whatever you want in it. So that's nothing stopping that.
There you go. Oh, this has been really incredible. Thank you so much for being here, David. It was such an honor. I'm just honoring your time. And this was very informative, and you give a lot of people a lot of hope. And I'm going to ask you for any of those decriminalized, any of the decriminalization organizations that you're supporting, for the links. So if anyone wants to donate or get involved or at least spread the word, they can. Just let me know, or if you want to name it here, we can go look it up and find their links.
Oh, okay. Well, Plant Medicine Coalition's really great. They're national. They're DC, so they're really focused in DC, but they're also national. They're lobbying the federal government for $100 million in research money to unlock the further potential of plant medicines and psychedelic medicine. MAPS, obviously, the Indigenous Peyote Conservation Initiative We're big supporters of them. The Heroic Hearts Project. So our co-sponsors here in California are the Heroic Hearts Project. They're sending vets down to drink ayahuasca in Peru and heal up, and doing great work, really amazing allies. Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions. Veterans groups are great because, they're really able to make this a bipartisan issue and, help bring the healing to BIPOC and all the other traumatized, marginalized communities. Yeah. So, I guess offhand, those are some of the main ones. Yeah.
No, thank you. We'll look them up, and we'll actually put the links right here on the interview page, as well as your link where everybody can check out the work you guys are up to as a company and all these amazing nonprofits. David, thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom. And thank you very much for this incredible work you do in the world. I know I said this last year, but my dream is that you guys can just train all the corporations in the world to run businesses this way. But
let me shout out Spore. I'll give a shout out to Spore. They're great. Colorado kind of grew out of the Denver effort, but are going national. And Spore, Society for Psychedelic Outreach and Education, or something like that.
Yeah. Yes. Well, sport.org is what they are. Yes.
Okay.
We'll add all these links here on the webpage. Thank you so much for being here. It was an honor to speak to you and have you share your unique medicine with the world.
Right on. Yeah. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you. And we'll have more interviews on psychedelics, sacred medicines, purpose, and business. See you soon.